This video I'm going to go over some of the good and some of the bad of Hunt Showdown. In case you didn't already know, Hunt Showdown is a game by Crytek and is also the spiritual successor to a lesser known game, Blunt Blowdown, the weed-smoking battle royale that's exclusively played by the same developers. Okay, all jokes aside, they had to be a little high to think of this game. It's a Western-style PVPVE that centers around 12 players trying to find clues that lead them to a boss, which they have to kill, then they have to banish it, then they have to take the bounty which the boss drops, and then reach an extraction point. Sounds simple, right? And it is, but it provides so many opportunities for different strategies, which is supposed to make the game fun. It's supposed to. We'll talk more about that later. First, I want to quickly go over a few things about the game. There's 3 maps total, and on these maps they have compounds, which is where you'll find the clues, and eventually it'll lead to a boss compound. The newest map is my personal favorite, and I feel like it's kind of a step in the right direction for the game. When you hit the fresh young level of 11, you'll start losing what are called hunters. Hunters are kind of like a loadout. They have their own unique guns and perks which you can change, but the thing that differs from the normal loadout systems you may be familiar with is that you must recruit your hunters. And how do you recruit them? Hunt dollars, which is one of the currencies in the game. Now, to be honest with you, as you get better at the game, I don't find this to be too much of a problem. After each match, you'll have a selection of hunters to choose from, which vary in price based off their perk tiers. You'll get a free reroll as well, and of course, if you want additional rerolls, you'll have to spend more hunt dollars. As you may have already guessed, hunt dollars are used for almost everything, from recruiting your hunters to buying their weapons and attachments or additional equipment like first aid kits. The perks themselves range from some pretty generic abilities to some that are incredibly strong, like a perk that gives you a full heal with 1 medkit charge, or a perk that lets you sprint for twice as long. There's tons of different weapons and equipment to choose from. This ranges from different types of rifles that can have silencers attached to them, to crossbows, and even sticky bombs. Now that we got kind of the basics out of the way, I'll talk about my experience with the game and go over some of the good and some of the bad, but if you've been watching this long, I'd appreciate it if you dropped a subscribe. When you first start the game, you're dropped right into the tutorial, and as soon as I finished that, like any G.I. Joe, I hopped right into solo queue and absolutely hated the game. I seriously thought about refunding it, but then I noticed this little button in the corner of matchmaking that says 3s, and yeah, that's going to be your best friend when you start. It completely changed the game for me. I stuck it out and eventually realized I hated the game because I had no clue what the hell I was doing. The learning curve in this game is, a little bit steep, but playing 3s made the game so much more enjoyable during the process. This game is unforgiving in a number of different ways. You'll lose hunters, you'll lose your guns, you'll lose equipment. This is actually a positive in my opinion, and one of the great things about the game, you will lose your shit, but as you get better, you'll lose less shit. I really wanted to get that out of the way for anybody who's thinking about picking up this game or has. Try out some 3s till you get a better understanding of the game, learning how to approach compounds, different ways of dealing with bosses, getting into gunfights when you're not immediately blown off the map. Oh yeah, and don't hold the dynamite. 3s just makes this game so much more enjoyable. So let's talk about the good things. As I touched on earlier, I absolutely loved 3s in this game. I play it a lot more than solo queue, and it's super fun, especially when others have mics. I'm not sure if this is the consensus among players, but team play in this game is so much fun. While it's not a game I can sit and play for hours on end, and personally I couldn't see myself pouring hundreds of hours into this game as I have other games, but I still feel like this is one of the more solid shooters that has a different spin on gameplay, and it has some wonderful design aspects to it. I think some of the areas are really well done, and along with the gameplay, they almost kind of get this suspenseful vibe. Even after many hours of playing, I still feel like I'm on the edge of my seat when I'm approaching a compound or making my way to a bounty point. Of course, this is a game I play sparingly, so if you're playing it every day, then I'm sure the feeling kind of wears off. But seriously, the design of this game, aside from the gameplay, is what really draws me in. The Western music fused with the horror aspect of the game, it just gives this game a kind of like a killer setting. Another thing I really value in games now is the length of a match. In Hunt, you're looking at maybe 15 to 30 minutes depending on how long you survive. I find this is a really sweet spot for somebody who wants to play a match or two, maybe play with some friends. So to me that's actually a positive aspect about the game. I really like the game's currency system. It doesn't feel as greedy as some of the newer monetization systems I've seen in some games. You can earn blood bonds instead of buying them with cash, and hunt dollars are easy to come by. Now obviously you'll save a lot of time by just buying the blood bonds outright, but I've never found myself having to spend cash and additional stuff is purely cosmetic. Now, they continue development on the game and recently added a new quest system which is supposed to feel more rewarding in terms of progression. They also plan on adding an anti-camping system which will lead us right into the bad stuff. So to get to the bad stuff about the game, there's a lot of camping. This can be frustrating, and they've recently announced a new feature that's supposed to combat camping specifically. Now, as with any major change to gameplay, this could be a good thing or a bad thing. I wish I had more info for you to help out your decision, but I'd like to take the optimistic approach that they're aware of the issue that's caused the problems, and they're working on a method to fix it. The next thing that affects gameplay a lot is bugs. Despite the continued development, which often addresses performance issues, it seems like there's still a lot of performance issues. FPS problems, textures not loading correctly, rubber banding. At first I thought this was a problem on my end, but others have experienced these problems as well. I had a problem with screen tearing when I first started the game. I was able to fix that after trying a few different solutions. So people who have NVIDIA cards, you may have to fix that. These problems will pop up, they'll get fixed, and then more will arise. This happens with so many games that I kind of hate pointing it out, but I've had more problems with this game than other games. It kind of reminds me of my love-hate relationship with Dead by Daylight in that sense. Your experience may be different than mine, but be prepared to kind of encounter those issues. Also, the shooting feels off to me. Please take this with a grain of salt. I am by no means the Stewie 2K of Hunt Showdown or any other game. It could be the hit registration, or maybe the game is just a little too realistic for me. The bullets are supposed to be projectiles, unlike the hit scan games that I'm used to, so that's likely it. But in my experience, I count this as a negative. If you're looking for that, then guess what? You've found the right game. So what do I think about it? Is it the greatest game I've played? Hell no. Is it a fun game that you should pick up on discount, play with some friends? Yes, it is. I'd recommend it to people who are looking for a different experience and setting in a battle royale game, but keep in mind that this game struggles with performance issues and I certainly wouldn't pay full price for it.